Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Kim, otherwise known as the Booker Harlot, and I am waiting rather impatiently for August 1st. It's a couple of weeks away, and that will be the date that the Booker longlist is announced. I thought that for the next couple of weeks, I might try reading by whim, so we will see how that goes. And it just so happens that two highly anticipated slash new releases have landed on my doorstep, so I thought that I would give them a try. These are two books that everybody seems to be talking about, but because they're new releases, I haven't read or listened to or watched a lot of reviews of them. So the first book is Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kramer Adjei-Brendan. Look at that beautiful cover. Although I don't know who Reading with Jenna is, but it's a sticker. So this is a new release. I believe it takes place in a not so distant dystopian future in the Americas. It is centered around the penal institution in which prisoners are given the option to opt into the chain gang, which means that they can earn their freedom by entering into sort of action, sports, entertainment, but they're death matches. So this is really giving off Battle Royale and Hunger Game vibes, which I'm all for. So this should be a very, very interesting read. The next book I am going to listen to this week because I commute about 10 hours a week, so it's prime audiobook time for me, is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and it is narrated by Helen Laser. And this is about two sort of friends of different ethnic backgrounds. They're both writers. One is wildly successful. The other one is wildly not successful. And the successful writer has just finished off a book and she dies. And the not so successful writer swoops in and takes the unfinished manuscripts and tries to pass it off as her own. I think it'll be a really interesting examination of cultural appropriation and racism. And I wonder if it's going to be a look at the publishing industry as well. So those are my two picks for this week. So let's get reading. I am halfway, actually a little bit more than halfway through Chain Gang All Stars, and I am really enjoying this book. But be warned, this is a tough read. I have picked two tough reads this week, very, very heavy handed. If you have triggers around violence, this is not the book for you. It is a very violent book. So, what intrigues me the most is so far is the structure. Now, the main character is Loretta Thurwar and Stax, and it's very, very hard to create a dystopian world, and this is done in such a good way. So the book starts off very, very focused on Loretta Thurwar, and then sort of pulls back a little bit and brings in Stax, and creates this very believable sort of battleground prison system, sports entertainment world. And then it builds upon that and builds upon that. So every time you start a new chapter, it sort of pulls back a little bit and that world expands. I mean, I love the fact that I am 200 plus pages into a 300 plus page book, and I'm still getting new characters, and I'm still learning more about this sadistic, violent, racist, torture filled society. And it's fantastic. One of the things that gives me sort of Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace vibes is that there are little symbols and there's footnotes and endnotes. And this is a very, very wise editing choice. Otherwise, this book could have ended up as thick as this one. So it normally happens around very cathartic moments to keep things spoiler free. But you learn about the characters' backstories through these footnotes. So you'll find out that when something major happens to, and I'm just randomly choosing a name, Razor, that there is this footnote as to their human story, what got them to the prison in the first place. And it's beautifully written and very well done, and it sort of pulls you out of the story for a second, reminds you that these gladiators are real people and that they are hurting, and that they are tortured, and a lot of the times that they are just mentally exhausted. And it's so well done. Now, sometimes I don't pick up on the little symbols, and I get to the bottom of the sentence and I'm like, oh, where did this footnote come from? But that's a me problem. That's not a book problem. So I am thoroughly, thoroughly enjoying this book, but wow, it's tough. It's very well crafted. The pacing is impeccable. The characters are three-dimensional. They're believable. And I think that the world that's being created is amazing. And it is very much a modern day take on the prison system, especially the American prison system. So I highly suspect that this author has done a lot of research around that. And it really highlights how today the prison system is unjust and it's violent and it's racist and it's not rehabilitative whatsoever. So I'm going to keep reading, and I am enjoying this book so far. I have just finished Chain Gang All Stars, and this is an amazing read. It's totally blown me away. I am astonished how this writer has created a dystopian world that constantly makes you reflect on today's society, on modern times, especially prison and injustice. There isn't a character in here that isn't unforgettable, which is astonishing. I was so taken in by this book, and I was literally holding my breath for the last couple of pages to find out what was going to happen. I'm currently working on my best books of 2023 so far, and this is absolutely going to make it. I think this book is astonishing. You need to go read this. Incredible. And the funny thing is that the more I like books, the less I can actually talk about them. So, incredible read. Go get one, read it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Totally blew my mind. And with that said, let's go on to listening to Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and it is narrated by Helen Laser. Go get this book. It's amazing. So I've just finished Yellowface, and I was planning on stopping and midway through the book and giving my thoughts, but I realized I didn't have anything good to say. So I just kept driving and I just kept listening. So let's start with what I did like about this book. I think the premise of this book is fascinating, brilliant if it could be pulled off, and a great forum to discuss so many different topics. So the plot takes place, it centers around Juniper, who is a white writer who is loosely associated with Athena. And Athena is a wildly successful Chinese American writer, and Juniper is not a successful writer. Now, what takes place early on in the book, so I don't think this is a spoiler, is that Athena ends up choking on a pancake, which I'm sorry, who chokes on a pancake and dies? But anyways, and Juniper swoops in and steals Athena's manuscript that no one has seen yet, and whitewashes it and passes it off as her own. Now, why I think this is great, I think this is a wonderful opportunity and a structure to discuss racism and whitewashing and white fragility, white privilege, plagiarism, uh, stereotyping, racism, online bullying, harassment. It's so appealing. The problem for me is it doesn't work because I don't believe in Juniper's character. I just don't buy her. She is so over the top and so unbelievable that I don't buy into the rest of the book, which is unfortunate. And I find everything about this book artificial and contrived and over the top. The main character has such extreme reactions to things. For example, she gets uncomfortable in a car with a person who calls her out, and she wants to dive out of the car into oncoming traffic and die this horrific death. I just feel like the author took a look at this character, put her into situations, and then tried to find so many ways to make that situation even worse, and it doesn't come off as believable, which is such a shame. Um, and I also wonder how much the author played upon American Dirt controversy for this book. In terms of pacing, I find it off as well. There's weird times in which you're sort of sucked into this week-long journey with Junie and her anxiety and hiding out in her apartment and putting her phone in the microwave. And then a couple of pages later, it's like, well, 2 years later, this happens. So, anyways, I'm very disappointed with this book. I feel like I am the only one in the world who didn't like it. But books are magic, and what appeals to me might not appeal to you, and vice versa. So, I'm glad I read it. I'm glad everyone is talking about it, and I hope that this opens up all sorts of interesting discussions around important topics. So, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining. If I had said at the beginning of this vlog what book I would have liked and what I thought I was iffy about, I would have said I don't think Chain Gang All Stars from the blurb can pull off that world, and I would have said I am going to get along with Yellowface. And it's funny because as much as I loved Chain Gang was as much as I disliked Yellowface. So it's been a really reading week. But thanks for sticking with me, and please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you in my next video. Oh, and there will be a Best Books of 2023 so far video coming out in just a couple days. Thanks. Bye. Should we go for a walk, Ripley dog?